Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel called zuzanareacts, where I learn all things Bharat with your help, and I just share my Slovak Central European point of view. And in today's video we're going to look into a bit more of a cultural video, and I think I've done maybe a bit of a similar video of someone's experience in like being deeply in India, what their experience have been. I can link it up here. But this one is an experience that is shared after 7 years living with Indian family. So I'm really super curious what a person has to share. And before we get into the video,
please like this video and click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification. Thank you so much for your support.
Right, so let's see what happened to this American in 7 years that he has lived with an Indian family. Super duper curious what the lessons learned are.
I think they also thought that Americans don't care about their family members at all, because your family is so important. Their biggest conception was, how could you want to move away from your parents? Like, don't you love them?
Meet Tyler, an American who moved to Mumbai from a small US town and has been in India for 10 years. He shared how he ended up living with an Indian family, why Indians never say no, and how his American values shifted after living in Mumbai. I'm Max, an entrepreneur and YouTuber from Singapore. Let's go. Do you remember your first impressions when you first come to Mumbai?
I remember thinking, where did I get myself into? Because it was completely different from where I'm from a small town in the States, around 1,200 people. And I remember the first thing thinking was that the amount of people I saw on the streets right away was the amount of people that
I mean, it's not a small town, it's a village, 1,200 people, right?
live in my town. I was scared. I remember, in fact, buying a book that was it was called Culture Shock and reading it. And I think that actually scared me more than once I got here and I realized that actually it's a very manageable country, manageable city. It opened my eyes to a lot of different things.
What was the most shocking part?
Probably the traffic. Getting from point A to point B, because I'm sure, as you've seen, that walking here is quite the challenge because there's sidewalks, but they're not very used that often. And you have to really be careful where you're going because you could have vehicles coming at you. You have kids playing cricket on the streets. You have barbers set up. You have vegetable markets. And then all of that can happen. And then traffic stops because a cow can walk by. So there's a lot happening. So you're constantly on gear.
Was the traffic worse or better 10 years ago?
I say it's about the same. I think right now it's particularly bad because there's a lot of construction happening in the city. So that's delaying a lot of things. But for me, I think that the traffic's been the same since I've arrived.
I guess there's a big difference in mentality of Americans from the place where you're from and Indians. What's the biggest difference that people think?
I would say a small one, but I notice a lot is when you go around here, sometimes people are afraid to say what they actually mean. And so that can slow things down. So if you go somewhere and if you go to a restaurant or if you go to a store and if they can't provide a service with you, sometimes rather than being a little bit more direct, they're going to maybe say they can do something and actually they can't. So they're trying to way to get away or to circumlocate the issue.
If I say yes, how I say yes?
Yes.
Okay, this yes. How is like, I'm not sure. So there is the face, same gesture.
Same gesture, but with the eye, with a little bit with the face.
No?
No would be no.
Like that?
Yeah, like a normal no. They're not going to say no straight up. Even sometimes you'll go to a restaurant and you'll get a menu and you'll order something and they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry, sir, that's actually not here today. Then you go to the next menu, or the next item, and they, oh, we don't have that either. So then rather than just, going through and saying what they don't have, they'll wait for you to go through the entire list before they say, actually, this is what we only have. It's just a bit of being indirect.
Why people are not very direct?
I think it's because they don't want you to feel bad and they don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. I think that's what it is, part of the reason. And they feel that they should be providing a service, or they should be, if you're expecting something from them, that they want to be able to accomplish that. So when they can't, they feel bad about it. Different thing I would say is the perception of family. I find that compared to where I'm from, family is so important here. People put family first above everything. I think that you can see that when you look at the households, and it's like very much a joint family. So you'd have different generations living together, and it's an expectation that you stay at the home. Whereas in the States, by the time you reach 18, it's expected that you're out, you're independent, you're doing your own thing. Whereas here, you want to be dependent of your family members, and you want to stick together and help each other out. So that's a big difference I've seen as well.
Which one you prefer personally?
Now I prefer the Indian style, and I like being dependent on others. I like that feeling of a whole family together, helping each other out. I know at first when I came, it was my first time getting a job, it was my first time living by myself. I thought that was going to be a great experience. But then I found out, after about a year or so, that it's not easy to live by yourself. I have quite a unique story because I met a really good friend and he could see that maybe I wasn't meant to be staying by myself. So he actually invited me to come live with his family. So I lived with the Indian family for about 7 years and really formed a super close relationship. And to this day, they consider me their family. I finally felt that, okay, I think I'm ready to get my own place. So I found my own apartment, but it's right below the families. So I still have dinner with them every night. I celebrate with them. We travel together. It's really impacted how I view and how I see India.
Wow, that's so unique.
Yeah.
When you stayed with the family, how many people were there?
I think at one point we were 5 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Ooh.
So we were very close-knit
Yeah.
together. One of the family
Ooh.
members got married, so she moved away, so there's less of us, but yeah, quite a big family.
Wow, I'll just stop there for a second. So in Slovakia, you would always have also the families here, especially in the east. There is, I think, because I'm from the east of the country and I live now in the capital. And I see and I think it's very characteristic of perhaps of any capital that you, at least in the West, you go to, that people are a bit more independent and they just want to live by themselves. But in the East, you would have the multi-generational families, and you would family here is also super important. I think that perhaps in India it's yet even top notch more, but I think in the West the concept is what the blood is thicker than water or whatever. But because you get so many different personalities within the family, and you can end up being black sheep, or you can just be surrounded by toxic people that will just not do good for you in the entire life. This is why in the West we have a concept that friends are sometimes better family than your actual blood family. I don't know what it is like in India, but yeah, I mean, it's scary to have so many people in a 2-bedroom house that it feels like no privacy. I think what I have learned, and let me know in the comments below, that apparently privacy is not much. I don't know if the word is valued, but it's maybe not so much as a thing here. I want to have my own space that I don't want anyone else to invade. So I would not really appreciate living like that. But perhaps if that was the only thing that I had known, it would have been a different thing, right? But that's a very insightful.
What was the attitude towards you as an American from this Indian family in the beginning?
In the beginning, I would think at first they were a bit skeptical as to what I was doing here, because they had these big ideas of what it meant to be from the States, and they just couldn't wrap their head around that I was choosing to live here, because if they were given an opportunity, they would do the opposite. But then they realized how much I love the country, how much I liked it here, how much I meant to be here. So that started to change. One thing that changed was we started to understand how each other think, because at first, even though language wasn't an issue, we'd speak to each other in English. Sometimes we didn't understand what each other meant just because of some of the culture differences, or the way we viewed things was so different. So that we got to learn from each other.
That's actually interesting, because this is what I feel like when I'm talking to you guys in the comments. I feel like this is what I'm at as well. I feel, misunderstood, and I feel like it is the culture thing as well. In certain instances, not always, but sometimes I'm like, this culture is so vastly different that I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure where my head is with that.
Each other very quickly.
Any example of this miscommunication?
For example, celebrating a birthday here is a custom that when you cut the cake, whoever's birthday it is goes around and feeds everyone, a little bit of a piece of cake. But I didn't have that growing up. So
in the US it would be,
you would cut the cake and then you'd serve it, on a plate.
Yeah.
But here you actually take it in your hand and serve in everyone's mouths.
Okay.
And they directly serve you.
Okay.
And then they take that same piece and then they feed the person next to them. So at first I didn't know what was going on. I thought, okay, what's happening here? But it was just part of the birthday celebration.
Did they have any misconception about America or Americans?
I think that they thought that, that was a dream for most people, is to go to the States, and why would you want to leave? When in reality, that's not the truth. I think they also thought that Americans don't care about their family members at all, because here, like I said earlier, here family is so important. Their biggest conception was, how could you want to move away from your parents? Don't you love them? By you leaving, doesn't that show that you don't care for them? Because now they have to look after themselves, especially as they're growing older. And so I constantly have to remind them that I still love my parents, and me moving away has nothing to say of our relationship, but it's just a different family dynamic.
So you grew up in this small town in Iowa. What's the big...
And I think it's just a very different mentality. Just because you care for your parents doesn't mean that you love them, and vice versa. I think it is just also about emotional maturity, about really understanding what things actually mean, and that everyone is unique and they show their love. Have you ever heard of 5 love languages? We all show love in a different way. So yeah.
Biggest differences of lifestyle there and here?
I would say, first off, the noise. Here, you constantly have noise coming at you from every angle, whether it be from the streets or music from a wedding that's playing across the yard. And that's something I notice when I go back, is how much noise there is here, because I'll be sitting down with my family back in the States and it's quiet. I think that it's too quiet. I need to put some type of noise on in the background. Here, you fortunately and you can get a lot of things taken care of for you because there's such cheap labor and things are so much more economical that you can have everything delivered to your door. I mean, just with the app, you can have someone come and they can, repair something in your house. They can give you a massage. They can give you a haircut. So everything is so much more accessible. Whereas in the States, or at least in my town, you have to do everything yourself.
Is there anything that the US can learn from India?
I think a lot. I think India does an amazing job of being really resourceful. I think that's something that I learned is I felt in the States, and I think back now, I was so wasteful of what I had. A lot of stuff that I got was use and throw, and I didn't think about it, and it would just go in the bin. Whereas I find here, if you have something, you're going to make sure that you use it until you can't use it anymore. And then you're going to make sure, okay, if you can't use it anymore, you're going to take it to someone, get it fixed so you can use it. That's something I really respect and I really try to do more of. Like even if I have, old clothes that have some rips in it, rather than saying, okay, that's done, I'm going to try to take it to a tailor or get it sewn or something like that. Or same with my household appliance.
Okay, so I'm going to pause here just because what he's saying, this is what exactly has been happening here before. So I guess some similarities between Slovakia and India here. But I think it's just the consumerism from coming from the West that we've all been here, exposed to. It just makes people to not appreciate stuff. Like, for me, it was actually a shock when I first came to the UK, how wasteful they were. And they were like, people here not that rich. And I'm definitely the kind of a person that really appreciates things that they have. So but I'm on the crazy side. I also want to utilize everything to the last point that I can't. But God, in the West, it feels like you just use, throw away. And this is why, now the sustainability and all of that is happening. But because why would you do something to your clothes when, it takes €1 to replace that, and it's just way cheaper. So basically, I think that the value of time and time for money has changed here. And, going to a tailor is like super expensive. Like in the West, if you want to go to the tailor, that means like you're loaded, you have shitloads of money. So but still, like I would say when it comes to household appliances, what he's about to say is something that we would do. I think that people, at least in my part of the country, you would want to try to be as economical as possible. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's like about being kinder to the planet. I just think that the entire world ecosystem has to change because it's just really what's happening is just really far from sustainable.
Whereas in the States, I think, okay, it's done. It's going to cost more just to get it repaired than to buy a new one. Whereas here, you are going to find someone to repair it and make sure you have it as long as you possibly can.
How Mumbaikars are different from, let's say, people from Delhi?
I don't have that much experience in Delhi, but the times that I've been there, you have to be a little bit more on guard because when people see you there, they see you more as a tourist. And I found that sometimes I've been taken advantage of more often in Delhi than I have here. Whereas I think that here, the people, when they see me, they assume that I'm living here. And so they don't try to, I've never feel like I've been cheated that often in Mumbai. And they've really geared me. And when I've been lost, they've taken me and gone out of their way to show me where I need to go. And so I've always felt, very safe and secure here. Whereas in Delhi, maybe it's just it's a new surrounding, wasn't that same hospitality feel, I would say.
It's strange, but I feel quite safe here.
Yeah, very
because
much.
I don't know, I'm a big guy, but I was walking around at night yesterday and the day before trying to feel the place. I don't see the aggression on the street.
No, there's no aggression. And if there is, it's, short-lived. If you have two cars who have a little bit of road rage, they're going to be yelling at each other. Then 2 minutes later, they're going to be fine. Nothing big happens. I've never had, touch wood, I've never had anything bad happen to me here because it is a very safe place. Traveling alone, late at night. And I've had a lot of really good experiences where actually you can see the kindness in people. So sometimes, when you're riding a rickshaw, you might forget something. Like one time I remember I left my wallet in the rickshaw. Anywhere else, like in the States, that would be gone, right? You might not get your wallet back. But actually this rickshaw driver, he remembered where I stayed, came back, gave it to the watchman, and the next day I had my wallet.
Oh, wow. There's a story of the wallet I want to, that we've looked at together. I'll link it up for those who haven't seen that video. So cool.
I'll never forget.
Any crazy stories or memorable stories that you can recall?
My first year, my friend and I were eating at a restaurant, and we didn't know Hindi at that time. So we were just communicating to the cook about how much we liked the bread. And he got so excited, started, it felt like he was yelling at us in Hindi, and he pulled us out of our chairs, brought us back to the kitchen. So I thought, okay, fine, he just wants to show us how they're making the bread. And actually, he started to force us to make it with the cooks.
Oh,
So that was like, so unexpected.
Yeah.
And
okay.
it was a great experience
Mm.
and something different.
What's your favorite Indian food?
I love biryani. Biryani, and I would say shami kebabs are some of my favorites, and rajma masala.
In Mumbai, anything special that everyone should try?
So I think the most typical is vada pav, which is this fried
bun.
potato. It's kind of like they call it a Bombay burger because it's like a fried potato between two buns. That's a must. And I think pani puri. You can't miss pani puri. It's an experience.
Tell me about like Bollywood movies and like Bollywood dance. I know you practice.
Yeah, I love Bollywood dance.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me how you found this love of Bollywood dance.
Probably within my first year, my friends did want to take me to a Bollywood movie. I'd never seen one before, and even though it was completely in Hindi, they said, with all the dancing, and we'll help you figure it out. So I went for my first Bollywood movie, and immediately I was attracted to the music. I was like, I need to listen more of this. I quickly asked my friends for all of their recommended songs and fell in love with the music. And one thing that's kind of different is I really fell in love with old Bollywood music, like music from the 70s or 80s. And there was one dancer in particular, her name's Helen, and she has some amazing dance moves. So I would just put that on YouTube and try to copy her moves. And that's, I think, where my love happened for Bollywood, was through Helen and my friends giving me all of their playlists. One thing I love about Bollywood music is if you notice, if you go out with your friends and there's some Bollywood music happening, everyone knows the moves and they're always the same moves. So after 2-3 years of being here, you quickly learn, okay, this song's on, what's going to be the hit move, and everyone does it together.
Why people are so into Bollywood in general?
I think it's part of the life here. I mean, if you look at the major actors, there's like, I would say compared to the States, there are less big actors. There are less big ones, but they are featured in everything. You're going to have Shah Rukh Khan, and he's going to come out with 2-3 movies in a year, where in the States, you might have one actor, and that one actor is going to come out with a movie every other year, for example. Everyone wants to go see the latest movie. It becomes quite the event. And I would say watching movies in the theater is more popular than at home.
I know that you speak Hindi. You would say your Hindi level is advanced or like?
I'd say
Almost-
intermediate.
almost.
Yeah, intermediate. I can get by. I can defend myself when I'm on the streets.
What I heard is you can survive without Hindi living here, because you can survive with just English.
In
Is it?
Mumbai, yes.
In Mumbai.
Yeah, in Mumbai, yes. Because if you go around, people know enough. They might not be able to speak Hindi, but they can, or English, but they can understand it. They might reply back to you in Hindi, but they understand what you're saying. And somehow you can communicate with each other, even if it's just small gestures. You might be familiar with the head wobble, and that helps you figure out what they're trying to say. I would say enough people speak English here that that's never been an issue.
And gestures. Often I see that taxi drivers, they do like, when someone not give you away, it's like,
Yeah.
this kind of thing. Yeah.
There's another unique thing I learned here was how to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
You go like this. Signals, you have to go to the loo. And then little different things is, counting here. So when you count, like,
Okay, you guys, like, why would you signal to someone like this that you're gonna get to the loo? Isn't that kind of a bit private? Like, you just get up and go. What is this about? Let me know in the comments below. This is interesting.
if you were to count, how would you count?
I would count like,
Yeah, so here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is actually really more practical because you can count more that way.
using one hand.
Yeah, using one hand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Are yaar.
What's that?
Are yaar. It's like, come on, bro. What are you doing? Are yaar.
How your personality shaped because living for 10 years in India?
My perception of personal space has changed because here there are so many people. Here, this personal space is much less, and they're willing to share things a lot more frequently. So I remember the first time I went to a restaurant and I didn't know, the social norms or whatever. So I went and sat down. I was having dinner by myself, and then all of a sudden, a stranger came and sat down right in front of me and started eating. And so for me, that was weird because in the States, you would never do that, right?
Yeah,
like if this is a table, this is for you. Whereas in this restaurant here, it was very much a communal feel. And it was, this table has space for 3. So we're going to have all 3 people sit there and eat together. For me, that was a different thing. And I like that even if you go to a friend's house or whatever, they're going to welcome you if you're going to stay the night. Okay, just stay on my bed. You're going to put someone everywhere. There's not this concept of, I don't have space to put people. You will make space to find people, to put people. And that I really enjoy about living here.
What would be your advice to someone who is thinking maybe to move, to try to live in Mumbai, in India? What would be your advice?
I would say you have to learn to be patient. Things here take time, whether it be when you're first stuck in traffic, because traffic is such a big part of your life here. If you're going to go different places, you're going to have to be prepared. Okay, there's going to be traffic. So you can't let that get to you. And then if you're going to be living here and you have a lot of paperwork that you need to do, there's a whole bunch of bureaucracy that you have to go through. So you have to go to person A to receive this paper, then go to person B to get it filled out, then go to person C to make a payment, just to go back to person A. So in your head, you think, couldn't we just all done that at one spot? If you really harp on these small things, it's going to get to you. So you just have to be patient. And I think this is for a lot of places. You have to be open-minded and willing to see things from a different perspective, because, you know, sometimes we take for granted here people do speak English. So we think that because they speak English that we have the same mindsets. But then sometimes you realize that no, actually there are those cultural barriers.
Yeah.
And so you have to take the time to see where the other person's coming from, to see it from a different lens. But overall, I would think you just need to be ready to tackle the city, to tackle, you know, the heat, the food.
Wow, so that's the type of video that I found like actually super helpful for me to form an opinion, or like opinion to try to get to know what it actually is like over there. It's very interesting, and I think the traffic, everyone talks about it for sure. It is a thing over there, but yeah, and the whole family thing and being super close and places being crowded, I can't imagine that actually. And having patience is an interesting one, because that's something that I still have been practicing all my life. So very much, and what was very interesting for me to see was the fact that he said like Mumbai and Delhi is so different, but obviously India is so huge, right? So I guess people might have different perception about people living in Mumbai or Delhi, you know, some sort of, you know, like I presume you would get it everywhere, right? Like people from the capital are like this, and people from, you know, smaller towns perhaps are like that. Or, you know, we have a town in Slovakia where I've never found like people like this in the entire Slovakia. They're such huge local patriots. They live in central Slovakia, in particularly one town. It's surrounded by like these really picturesque mountains. And these people, if you ask them where in the world they would want to live, they will say they want to live there. Like, I've never experienced anything like that. I know a couple of people from there, and all of them are like, this is where I want to live. No, this is the best place on earth. So interesting. Wow, this was very, very, very informative as to what it's like. I think for me, the traffic and the crowdedness, I would be a bit not my jam, but yeah, but I think just what he called out is the mindset, and this is what I've been mentioning a few times, that I find the cultures just like completely worlds apart to, let's say, what I would perhaps be used to. So it's interesting for someone that has been living there for so many years to mention that. In any case, this was really cool, at least for me. I hope you enjoyed watching this video with me. If you did, please give a thumbs up, share, like, and subscribe to this channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, please, you do take care. Sending much, much love. Bye-bye.